could the Elbaf Arc be Oda's version of the Wizard of Oz? Loki as a twisted take on the Tin Man, the Land of Gods doubling as a yellow brick road, these aren't just coincidences. Let's dive into 3 surprising connections that might completely change our thoughts on Elbaf. Let's get into it. Let's start with one of the most fascinating connections, the Land of Gods in Elbaf and the yellow brick road from the Wizard of Oz. At first, the connection might seem like a stretch, but the more we dig into the details, the stronger the parallels become, especially in how both journeys serve as metaphors for breaking free of illusions and uncovering truth. So let's begin with something simple, the names. The yellow brick road has Rhoda its name. Duh, just like how the Land of Gods is built and ruled by the giant named Road. But it doesn't stop there. The yellow brick road is literally a pathway made of bricks. And what is the Land of Gods made out of? Toy bricks. It's a clever touch by Oda that ties both journeys together in a very literal sense while also grounding them in their deeper narrative purpose, to challenge those walking the path to confront illusions and finding their inner strength. Now let's talk about the destination. In The Wizard of Oz, the yellow brick road leads Dorothy and her companions to the Emerald City, where they believe they'll find answers from the wizard. But when they finally arrive, they pull back the curtain and discover that the wizard isn't just some all-powerful being, he's just an ordinary dude fuck of a guy hiding behind illusions of grandeur. This is directly mirrored in the Land of Gods. At the end of their quote-unquote journey through the diorama, the Straw Hats discovered that the so-called sun god is nothing more than a jailer for Elbaf's prison, a fraud who used illusions to project himself as a deity. It's a striking parallel for both stories, exposing the deception at the heart of the journey and force the characters to rethink what true strength and power look like. But there's another layer to this. In The Wizard of Oz, the yellow brick road is a journey of self-discovery. Dorothy and her companions think they're searching for something they lack: courage, heart, and wisdom. But by the end, they realize they have all those qualities. And so similarly in the Land of Gods, the Straw Hats are juxtaposed with the captured residents who lack the will and power to free themselves. I mean, they pretty much acclimated to treating grasshoppers like motorcycles, so they were not going anywhere anytime soon. But anyway, this forces the Straw Hats to fight their way to break free. And so by shattering the mirrored sky and exposing the illusions of the fake sun god, they reclaim their freedom and implicitly remind us, the readers, that their strength doesn't come from the outside forces or false authority, it comes from within. Like the yellow brick road, the Land of Gods diorama is filled with symbolic obstacles designed to test the characters. The Lego environment is populated by giant animals treated as gods that code switch from Mufasa to Crumbie Cat. And just for shits, no giggles, we could probably interpret the sun, as in the deity Road was trying to front but ultimately failed and got crucified for being a weirdo, as a symbol that's commonly associated with the color yellow. I mean, I don't know, the sun is yellow. What do you want me to tell you? But in the end, the Land of Gods isn't just a clever setting. It's a thematic microcosm of the Elbaf Arc as a whole, and encapsulates one of the arc's deeper themes: the need to shatter illusions, question false authority, and embrace the freedom to protect what you love. But just like Dorothy didn't make her journey alone, the Straw Hats and the Giants aren't navigating Elbaf's challenges in isolation. And this brings us to another fascinating parallel: Dorothy's companions and the unique human-giant pairings in the Elbaf Arc. What do I mean by human-giant pairings? Not what you think. Another example of parallels in the Elbaf Arc is the connection between Dorothy's companions in The Wizard of Oz and the unique human-giant pairings in the story. Dorothy didn't make her journey alone, nor will the Elbaf Arc characters, so I believe Oda will use these pairs to mirror the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, exploring the ideas of worthiness, challenging the status quo, and the value of kindness. So let's start with the Cowardly Lion, who represents a struggle with courage and confidence. In The Wizard of Oz, the lion is known for his bravery in appearance, but insecurity in practice, needing the journey to rediscover his true strength. And this is where Shanks and Saul come in as Elbaf's version of the lion. So let's start with Shanks. We all know Shanks as the current God King of One Piece. There's no need for introductions. However, what's important to note about Shanks, aside from the fact that according to Oda, his animal resemblance is that of a lion, and that his sword, Griffin, is, Chapter 1131 reestablishes Shanks' worldview, which transformed Luffy's understanding of what it means to be a pirate in Chapter 1. This illustrates how one can possess an aura that demands respect and fear. However, it requires a real man to face conflict through the lens of pacifism and diplomacy. To some, particularly giants like Loki, this pacifism is viewed as cowardice and unwillingness to fight. However, Shanks' restraint is a testament to his strength and maturity, showing that true courage and strength often lie in choosing peace over unnecessary violence. Like the Cowardly Lion, Shanks balances his immense strength with deliberately avoiding conflict. He embodies that bravery isn't just about fighting every battle, but knowing when to protect and preserve. And his decision to avoid needless war and focus on protecting the people and ideals he loves mirrors the Cowardly Lion's ultimate realization that courage comes from the heart. Soul's courage takes a different form. He actively rejects the warrior culture of Elbaf, which traditionally equates strength with fighting and conquest and honor and glory. By choosing to protect Robin during the O'Hara incident, Soul demonstrated a different kind of bravery, the willingness to stand up against who he once considered his people, the Marines, and the world government, to do what's right. This mirrors the Cowardly Lion's journey of redefining courage beyond traditional notions of strength. Even in Elbaf, Soul's role as a mentor to the next generation of giants reinforces this archetype, and so by instilling in them values of peace and cooperation, he challenges the old warrior ideals, much like the Cowardly Lion who learns that bravery isn't about brute strength, but protecting those you care for. In addition, Soul's laugh fired all the cylinders in my brain to make this video. In addition, in Japanese wordplay, his laugh directly references lions, symbolically connecting him to the archetype. The Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz represents a journey of rediscovering the capacity for love and compassion. He believes that he has an icebox where his heart used to be, or was supposed to be. The guy doesn't have a literal heart, let's just go with that. And yet his actions throughout the story reveal his inherent kindness and empathy. His art is about realizing that genuine emotion and connection aren't things you gain. They're qualities always within you, waiting to be acknowledged. Loki reflects this archetype in the Elbaf Arc, and if you subscribe to the theory that this guy comes back into the fold, for which I made a video specifically about him and his broken heart, each of them would struggle with the concept of compassion and what it means to have a heart. Ever since chapter 1130, we had a pretty good impression, good as in bad impression, that Loki was a cold-hearted bitch. He apparently killed his father and stole the legendary devil fruit of Elbaf. I mean, you can't get any more heartless than that.
This chicken is cold!
The conclusion of chapter 1134 reveals a much more intricate character of Loki than we initially perceived. During this chapter, Loki's Den Mushi pen pal Mosa, or Shaggy as Viz translates it, discusses kindness. It's fascinating to discover that Loki's seemingly cold exterior lies a genuine streak of kindness just beneath the surface. Mosa's observation clarifies how Loki embodies a conflicted, heartless ruler archetype. As the young prince of Elbaf, he rejects his father, King Harald's vision of peace, embracing dominance and revenge instead. Loki's self-proclamation as the sun god shows his obsession with destruction, which I bet is just him masking his emotional insecurities and disconnection from others. Much like the Tin Man, Loki's actions suggest that he's not genuinely heartless, but rather suppresses his capacity for compassion. Glimmers of this come through in his interactions with Luffy and Mosa, where moments of kindness break through his cold facade. His claim to be the sun god is similar to the Tin Man's belief that he lacks a heart. Both reflect a misunderstanding of their true selves, yet his approach only reveals the emptiness he feels inside. His journey is going to be about understanding that strength and power stem from compassion, not domination, allowing him to reconnect with his compassion and realize that it's perfectly alright to show vulnerability occasionally. A while back I made a video on the channel exploring how Kid's past, especially the death of his childhood friend Victoria, shaped his hardened, heartless personality. Kid's refusal to show vulnerability or kindness stems from this emotional wound. Like the Tin Man who believes he lacks a heart, Kid suppresses his emotions to protect himself from further pain, equating compassion with weakness. The Tin Man's rusted state symbolizes stagnation and the need for care and maintenance, which ties directly to Kid's character, his unresolved grief, his guilt over Victoria's death, and the consequences of his reckless actions, such as Killer's suffering at the hands of not only Kaido and Orochi, but Shanks as well. I imagine will have him left feeling emotionally rusted. Just as the Tin Man's journey involves rediscovering his capacity for love, Kid's arc in Elbaf, if he shows up, could challenge him to confront his grief and find redemption. And I think a pretty obvious common trait between the Tin Man and Kid is, I mean, it's right there. His devil fruit allows him to bend metal. He's got a metal arm. It's a clear-cut visual parallel to the Tin Man that I think is pretty hard to ignore, not gonna lie. In fact, 99% of why Kid is in this video in the first place is because of the metal arm. Because, again, it's a metal arm.
You have a metal arm? That is awesome, dude!
The Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz represents a journey of wisdom and self-belief. He starts his journey believing he's brain dead, constantly doubting his 20 intelligence, but he proves himself clever and resourceful over time. His arc revolves around realizing that wisdom isn't just about innate intelligence, but it's about applying what you know and trusting your abilities. In the Elbaf arc, I believe Usopp and Hardruden will be powerful reflections of this archetype, each embodying the Scarecrow in their own unique ways. Because the Scarecrow's arc is about overcoming self-doubt. It's pretty much a match made in heaven to parallel him to Usopp, since throughout the entire story, that's been a personal conflict for Usopp, constantly struggling with self-perception and doubting himself, especially in the Water 7 saga, where we further explore that side of his character that sees himself as weaker or less capable than the rest of the Straw Hat crew. And so, like the Scarecrow, Usopp often underestimates his own resourcefulness, even though he consistently rises to the occasion with clever tactics and surprising bravery. This insecurity has been reinforced recently in the Elbaf arc, where Usopp interacts with the next generation of giant children. And these kids, raised in a culture shifting towards pacifism, challenge Usopp's traditional view of bravery that he drew from giants like Dorothy and Bragi, and will force him to rethink what it means to be a brave warrior of the sea. I go even deeper into this conversation in this Usopp I made a while ago, so check that out when you get the chance to understand this aspect of Usopp. Usopp's character design and abilities surprisingly also tie directly to the Scarecrow. His long nose evokes the image of a Tengu, a crow-like yokai, linking him thematically to a Scarecrow whose whole purpose is to scare away crows. So yeah, for all the MCU fans out there, let's just say Usopp is the variant of Kakashi from Naruto. Yeah, that's not the best comparison, but Kakashi's name literally means scarecrow, so I just had to fit this into the video somehow. Additionally, the post-time skip fighting style of Usopp revolves around plants, with weapons like pot grains symbolizing his role as a protector of seeds and crops, just like a scarecrow guarding a field. I also believe that because of his recent interaction with the students of Soul's Wolver School, Oda's idea is to compare the concept of seeds to the kids, since they are metaphorical seeds, the future of Elbaf. And so due to Usopp's disillusionment with the declining warrior culture he encounters, I believe that as he reconciles with Elbaf's shift towards a more progressive mindset, he'll discover being a brave warrior of the sea means to him personally. And in doing so, he will become a role model for the children, sowing the seeds of a renewed and improved vision of Elbaf's giants. He'll blend the traditional warrior ideals he learned from Dorothy and Bragi with the new generation's ideals of protecting life over conquering enemies and dying for glory. Now onto Hardruden, which you're probably thinking, why? While it's not apparent as it seems, I believe that the eldest prince of Elbaf, Hardruden, is currently facing a unique struggle with self-worth. Despite his arrogance and confidence in battle, especially from what we've seen during his introduction in Dressrosa, Hardruden's deeper arc will be about proving his worthiness as a leader and heir to Elbaf. Like the Scarecrow, I believe he questions whether he has what it takes to live up to the legacy of his people, and most importantly, his father, King Harold. And I believe this uncertainty is what resulted in his early wish to acquire the Marimari no Mi in Dressrosa, and that desire might have come from several different factors that led him to question his ability to guide the giants. And this could explain why he didn't take up the throne, even though it would seem natural since he's the oldest prince. In chapter 1135, Saul's assistant Angie confirms that after King Harold's death, there hasn't been a new king since, which leads me to believe that maybe Hardruden was supposed to ascend to the throne, but didn't feel worthy enough that he thought Loki was much more suited to take up the throne, since he's clearly the strongest of the two brothers. However, Loki's pretty preoccupied for the time being tied up to Treasure Tree Adams, so it'll be a no for Loki. It seems that his feelings of not being good enough compared to Loki pushed him to take action. He wanted to prove himself, like when he tried to win the Marimari no Mi and revive the giant warrior pirates. Hardruden is definitely strong, but I feel like his journey is going to be a lot like the Scarecrow. It's not about the brains, or in Hardruden's case, the strength and the power. It's really about figuring out how to lead wisely. And so like the Scarecrow, Hardruden must understand that he's already worthy from the jump. So I believe Usopp and Hardruden embody two sides of the Scarecrow archetype. Usopp represents the underestimated and resourceful underdog, while Hadruden represents the weight of leadership and the search for worthiness. And so together, they reflect the shared journey of the Scarecrow, overcoming doubts to realize their own strength and wisdom. Hadruden's reference for Usopp as God Usopp also adds another layer to their connection, symbolizing how even those who doubt themselves can inspire greatness in others. But just as the Scarecrow had to confront the illusion of his supposed lack of intelligence, Usopp and Hadruden's journeys in Elbaf will challenge them to see through the false narratives they've believed about themselves. The idea of breaking free from illusions, it isn't just central to their arcs, it's woven into the fabric of the Elbaf arc itself. Elbaf's themes of illusion will ultimately connect to One Piece's overarching exploration of freedom. And just as the Straw Hats aim to break the world free from the illusion of freedom crafted by the world government, Elbaf provides a microcosm of this struggle. So let's talk about the bigger picture here. What Elbaf is really showing us about One Piece's central theme: freedom. Not just freedom, the illusion of freedom. This isn't just about one island, it's about the whole government and why it's controlling the entire world by feeding people a carefully crafted lie. And what I think makes the Elbaf arc so powerful is how it mirrors the struggle on a smaller scale, showing us both the cracks in that illusion and the importance of finding balance. So take the Land of Gods, for example, as we discussed earlier. Road declares himself the sun god, but in reality, he's nothing more than a jailer. Everything about his kingdom is fake. The diorama, the giant animals, even his supposed divine authority, all fake. He maintains control by creating an illusion that people believe in, even when they see through it and attempt to resist. Their challenges are met with threats to their safety, and that's precisely what the world government does. They pretend to be protectors of peace and freedom, but it's all a lie. They use that facade to suppress anyone who dares to challenge their authority. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Elbaf itself is caught in a similar struggle. Without King Harold to complete the reformation of Elbaf, the Giants are currently divided between their warrior traditions and the peaceful future that they want to create. The newer generation of Giants, especially the kids we saw in chapter 1134, have grown up embracing those pacifist ideals. But here's the problem. They're gonna grow up weak as fuck. Elbaf would be vulnerable. That's where I think Oda is making a really important point. Pacifism has its flaws, but so does blind tradition. Elbaf can't survive by clinging to its warrior culture, but it can't just give up its strength. There has to be a middle ground, a balance between the two. And this idea isn't just about Elbaf, it's about the entire world. The world government thrives because people blindly follow orders like the Marines do, or fall into the trap of false peace like your average citizen. Breaking free from that requires both strength and wisdom. And let's add another layer to this with the Gods Knights. Now that they've shown up in Elbaf, with Shanks' twin brother, Stabs, on the forefront, it's going to force this theme of illusions into the spotlight. The Gods Knights are the ultimate enforcers of the world government's fake justice. Their presence would expose Elbaf's weakness, showing how much the Giants need to balance strength and peace. And it also reminds us of how the world government manipulates people by exploiting their vulnerabilities. The illusion of freedom they sell isn't just a lie, it's a weapon. And when you look at it from a character development angle, it makes sense for Shanks' brother to have a role in this whole arc. It helps Loki's character grow. We've seen quite a few siblings in the series and how each has made a choice that shaped their fates. And I think Shanks' brother is a perfect example for Loki to reference. He's going to realize that if he keeps holding on to this idea that he's just a terrible guy who destroys everything and that kindness and vulnerability aren't things giants are supposed to show, he's just setting himself up to end up like Stabs. And trust me, Loki's gonna think, I don't want to turn into Stabs. I want to be more like Shanks. Stabs sucks. And when you think about it, this ties perfectly into what the Straw Hats represent. Luffy's idea of freedom isn't about domination or being reckless or violent. It's about protecting others so they can live how they want. That's the kind of freedom Elbaf needs, not based on illusions of strength or peace, but on the ability to protect what matters the most. That's what will make Elbaf such a powerful arc in the story. But what's even more powerful is the story behind Loki's situation. We discuss all of that in this video, which discusses why Loki is the misunderstood hero of Elbaf. You can check it out right after this video.